Welcome to Golden Age Stories.
The shadows grow long, but the memory.
Welcome back to the deep dive. It is really good to have you with us.
It is.
Today, we are going to do something a little different. Usually, we're racing forward, trying to catch up with the latest algorithm or a market shift.
Always looking ahead.
Always. But today, we are slowing down. We are turning down the lights, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
We are stepping away from the noise of the now to listen to a sound that, if I'm being honest, it feels like it's been echoing for 1,000 years.
It really does. It's a sound that feels less like a performance and more like geology. It's foundational.
Exactly, foundational. We have a stack of sources here. Biographies, session notes, psychological profiles, oral histories that all circle around one man, a man we all think we know.
Right. You see the silhouette, the guitar slung over the back, that stark black coat.
We are talking about Johnny Cash. But the mission today isn't to just run through a Wikipedia page of his hits. We aren't here to just, list the awards.
No, and if you look at the material we've gathered, treating Johnny Cash's life as a checklist is, it's a disservice. It misses the entire point of his existence.
Which is what?
The central thesis we are exploring today is the paradox of the man. The conflict.
There was a line in the source material that really stopped me in my tracks. It was the hook that pulled me into this entire research pile.
What was that?
It said, "We are often drawn to the darkness that precedes the dawn. But in Cash's case, the darkness was the dawn."
Wow. That is a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is. It just reframes everything. It suggests that the voice, that deep, resonant baritone that feels like it's coming right out of the American earth, it wasn't just a gift. It was a scar.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It was a scar. And scars are formed by trauma.
Right.
The mission of this deep dive is to uncover what the analysts call the source code of the man in black. We want to understand the fragile, broken man who is constantly caught between the pulpit and the jailhouse.
Fleeing something.
Fleeing a trauma that he genuinely believed was divinely inflicted upon him.
It is heavy stuff, but it's also incredibly beautiful. For our listeners, especially those who might remember hearing that voice on the radio in the 50s or 60s.
Or maybe found him later.
Or found him later during his resurgence. This is an invitation to step back into that golden age. But we're going to look behind the curtain. We want to look past the outlaw image, the middle finger to the camera, and understand the emotional weight he was carrying.
It's the story of how a man turned sorrow into American scripture.
That's it.
And to do that, you have to realize that Johnny Cash wasn't born the man in black. He was made, and the making of him was. It wasn't a pleasant process.
So let's unpack this. If we are looking for the source code, where do we even begin? Because it doesn't start on a stage in Memphis.
No, not at all. It starts in the mud.
The mud.
To understand the man, you have to understand the boy. And you have to go back to a very specific date, May 1944. We are in Dyes, Arkansas. Johnny is just JR at this point. That's his name, just initials. He's 12 years old. And the sources paint this picture of a bright spring day, Saturday, the kind of day that feels full of promise for a country kid.
And it involves a decision, right? One of those sliding doors moments where if you go left, life is one thing, and if you go right, history changes forever.
Precisely. You have JR and you have his older brother, Jack. Now, we need to pause on Jack.
Okay.
In the Cash family narrative, Jack isn't just a brother. He is the standard. He is the good one. He's 2 years older, but he's already a man in spirit. He's pious. He reads his Bible. He works hard. He's the one their father, Ray, clearly respects.
The favorite son.
The biblical favorite, yes. And they had a plan to go fishing that morning. Just two boys heading to the creek.
A perfect spring day.
You'd think so. But at the last minute, the plan changes. JR decides he's going to go to the swimming hole instead. He wants to play. He begs Jack to come with him.
But Jack doesn't go.
No. Jack feels a responsibility to the family. They are poor. Desperately poor.
Yeah.
Jack decides to stay back and work. He goes to the community wood shop to cut fence posts on a table saw for a neighbor just to bring in $3.
$3. And JR chooses the leisure, the lightness, and Jack chooses the duty.
That is the critical distinction. That's the pivot point for everything that follows. JR is off having fun, splashing in the water, and Jack is working. And that is when the unthinkable happens.
Mm-hmm.
The source material describes it as The day the light died, Jack is pulled into the table saw.
God. The details in the notes. It's just horrific. It wasn't quick.
No. And that is the true horror the sources emphasize. It was a catastrophic abdominal injury. But he didn't die on the shop floor.
He lived.
He survived for a week. A full week lingering in the family farmhouse. And this is where the story shifts from a tragic accident to something mystical, something that haunted Cash for the rest of his life.
This is the part that gave me goosebumps. The sources mentioned that Jack was coherent through a lot of this.
He was. He was in profound pain, obviously, but he was talking. And not just to his parents.
Who is he talking to?
He was speaking to angels. In those final days, as infection set in and his body failed, Jack began describing what he was seeing. He described gates of pure gold. He described the beauty of heaven.
Wow.
He asked his mother, "Can you hear the angels singing?" The room was thick with the scent of medicine and fear, but Jack was narrating his entry into the afterlife.
And JR, this 12-year-old kid, is sitting there witnessing all of this.
He is the witness. He is seeing the gore, the suffering, the physical reality of death, but he's also hearing this transcendent spiritual vision.
I can't imagine.
And the sources argue that this created an impossible weight for JR. He's sitting there asking himself a question that would define the rest of his life. Was this supposed to be me?
Because he was the one swimming. He was the one having fun.
Exactly. I was playing. He was working. He died. I lived. It's the burden of substitution. Survivor's guilt on a level that's just biblical.
And when Jack finally died and they buried him in the dirt of dyes?
The analysts make a very poetic point. The family buried JR's lightness too. They buried his innocence. The boy who came back from the swimming hole wasn't the same boy who left.
So the darkness takes root right there. That's the seed.
Yes. A fierce, protective, destructive darkness. This is the source code. The rest of his life became an attempt to apologize for surviving. He was either trying to destroy himself to balance the scales.
Punishing the boy who went swimming?
Right. Or he was trying to live up to the impossible standard of holiness that Jack had set in his final hours. He could never be as good as Jack.
That puts the whole man in black persona in a completely different light. It's not just I'm a tough guy, it's I'm in mourning.
Or I am serving a penance every day.
For a crime he didn't commit. We have to talk about the environment where this trauma festered. Because Dyes, Arkansas wasn't exactly a place where you could easily process your feelings.
Oh, not at all. The crucible of Dyes. That's how we should view it.
A crucible.
The sources describe the poverty there not just as a lack of money, but as the physical pressure. It was a New Deal experiment, a colony created by FDR to give poor farmers a chance. But the reality was swampy land, relentless sun, and cotton.
Cotton seems to be a main character in this story.
It absolutely is. The work was endless. The sources have this vivid image of backs being fused into a question mark from bending over all day, every day. But here is where we see the artist beginning to form in that hardship.
Connect that for us. How does the cotton field create the music?
Well, think about the rhythm of picking cotton. JR used the fields as his first recording studio. You drag this heavy burlap sack behind you, it can weigh 50, 60 pounds.
Just dead weight.
Step drag, pluck, drop, step drag. It creates a slow, deliberate cadence, a rhythm.
It's a beat.
Exactly. The sources suggest this didn't just influence his work ethic, it dictated the tempo of his music. He wasn't just counting cotton bolls, he was counting sins. He was processing the silence left by his brother, that boom chicka boom sound we later associate with him. It has its DNA in the dragging of that sack through the Arkansas mud.
That's incredible. But he wasn't alone in those fields. He had his father, Ray. And talk about a shadow.
Ray Cash, a hard man, practical, demanding, emotionally absent, a product of the 1930s South. To him, masculinity was toughness. There was just no room for grief or tenderness.
And the dynamic was brutal.
Absolutely. Ray had favored Jack. When Jack died, Ray didn't turn to JR for comfort. He looked at JR with disappointment.
I read somewhere that Ray even implied it should have been JR who died. Said her out loud.
The sources allude to that, yes. Some accounts say he said it explicitly at the funeral. Too bad it wasn't you.
My God.
Imagine carrying that. Just think about that for a second. Ray left a void that he filled with demands. He wanted JR to redeem the loss, to be worth 2 sons. This gave Cash a stone in his pocket, as one writer put it.
This heavy, dragging need for approval.
Yes. The insecurity beneath the bravado of the man in black comes directly from here. He was always trying to prove his worth to his father and to the ghost of his brother.
But there was a light, right? It wasn't all darkness in that house. His mother, Carrie.
Carrie was the counterbalance. Thank goodness for Carrie. She was the spiritual backbone. While Ray provided the physical hardship, Carrie provided the hymns.
The music.
The music. She would sit JR on her lap and sing these old Pentecostal hymn songs about redemption, judgment, the glory train, hellfire.
So he had both sides, the punishing silence from his father and the promise of salvation from his mother.
Exactly. And the radio. We have to talk about the radio. For listeners of a certain generation, that glow of the dial is such a specific, warm memory.
The invisible cathedral, that's a beautiful description from the source material.
Isn't it? Imagine the scene. It's late at night in a shack in Arkansas, pitch black outside. But inside, there's the amber glow of the battery-powered radio. They're tuning into WOAC out of Nashville or the border stations from Mexico.
And suddenly, the world gets bigger.
It's a revelation. He's hearing bluegrass. He's hearing Hank Williams wailing about heartache. He's hearing the Carter family for the first time. For a boy full of these contradictory emotions, sorrow, guilt, rebellion, this music was a language. It was large enough to hold everything he was feeling.
It gave him a way to express it.
It did. It seems like that's where he realized what he wanted to do. He didn't want to be a singer in the polished crooner sense.
No.
He wanted to be a storyteller. He wanted to take the sound of the trains, the thud of the cotton sack, and the silence of his brother's death and turn it into something that mattered. He realized that a simple song, delivered plainly, could hold the weight of the human spirit.
So how do we get from the cotton fields to the recording studio? Because JR eventually leaves Dies.
He does. He joins the Air Force in 1950.
And this is the transformation to John.
It is. The military wouldn't accept initials, so JR becomes John R. Cash. It was a pragmatic choice. You have to think it was also a way to create some distance from the ghosts of Arkansas. A chance for one, anyway. He gets shipped to Landsberg, Germany.
And he had a very specific job there. He wasn't just peeling potatoes or something.
No, not at all. This is crucial for his musical development. He was a Morse code intercept operator.
Listening in on the Soviets.
Exactly. He spent hours and hours, day after day, sitting in silence, listening to static, waiting for the rhythmic beeps of Soviet transmissions. It was a lonely, meticulous job.
I never connected Morse code to music, but when you say it, it makes perfect sense. It's all about rhythm and spacing.
It honed his ear. It taught him deep listening. And in that loneliness, in the barracks in Germany, he bought his first guitar for about $5.
And started writing.
Started trying to translate that static and silence into chords. The loneliness of that job really fueled his creativity.
So he comes back in 1954. He's married now to Vivian Liberto, living in Memphis, and he's selling appliances.
Miserably. By all accounts, he's a terrible salesman. He's pushing washing machines door to door, but his head is full of lyrics and melodies.
But Memphis in 1954, that is the center of the universe for music.
It's the place to be. You've got Sun Records, you've got Sam Phillips.
The man who found Elvis Presley.
The visionary. The man with a ear for something new. Cash gathers up the courage and a couple of mechanics he met, Luther Perkins and Marshall Grant, and goes to see Sam Phillips.
And this is a pivotal moment.
It is, but not in the way you'd think.
Yeah.
Cash goes in there and plays these old gospel hymns, the stuff his mother taught him.
He's still trying to be the good boy, trying to be Jack.
Exactly. He's trying to sing for God, and Phillips stops him. The sources quote Phillips here, and it's such a great line. He says, "I don't think God and I are meant to do business together right now."
That is brutal. Absolutely brutal.
It is, but it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Phillips told him, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Go home and sin, then come back with a song I can sell."
Wow.
He meant, stop faking it. Stop trying to be the polished gospel singer. Give me the pain. Give me the struggle. Give me the JR from the cotton fields.
That must have been terrifying for Cash, to be told that the good part of you isn't what people want.
It forced him to strip it bare. He went home, and he stopped trying to be a fancy singer. He returned with Hey Porter.
And you can just hear it.
You can.
Yeah.
Listen to the structure of that song. It's built entirely on the chug of a freight train. It's the soundtrack of his childhood.
And then cry, cry, cry.
That was the breakthrough. No vibrato, no polish. Just forceful, whispered urgency. And we have to mention Luther Perkins on the electric guitar.
The boom chicka boom.
The famous sound. And it wasn't virtuosity, it was necessity.
Yeah.
Perkins wasn't a master musician. He was an auto mechanic.
Right.
He played that hypnotic, repetitive rhythm by muting the strings with the palm of his hand because it was what he could play. But it sounded like machinery. It sounded like fate.
It was perfect.
It locked in with Cash's voice perfectly. And Phillips heard it immediately. He signed him, and suddenly the appliance salesman was gone. Johnny Cash was born.
So he's rising alongside Elvis. He's touring. He's the voice of American despair and defiance. But here is where it gets really interesting and really, really dark. Because fame didn't fix the hole in his soul, did it?
If anything, fame was an X-ray beam. It just amplified the turmoil. It made the cracks bigger. He was doing 300 shows a year.
That's almost every day.
It is grueling for anyone. But for a man running from his own thoughts, a man haunted by the ghost of his brother, it was a recipe for disaster.
Enter the pills.
Amphetamines, pep pills. In the late 50s, these were common. Truck drivers used them, students used them. But for Cash, they solved two problems.
What were they?
First, they gave him the energy to perform night after night, to drive all night to the next town. But second, and maybe more importantly, they quieted the voices. They numbed the guilt.
They let him escape?
For a little while. And this is when the man in black persona really solidifies. The sources are clear that the black clothing wasn't just a style choice.
What was it then?
It was a physical manifestation of his internal darkness. He was externalizing the mourning he lived in every single day. But the paradox is, while he looked cool and commanding to the public, privately he was descending into absolute chaos.
The 1960s seemed like a blur of arrests and missed shows and broken promises.
It was a slow, agonizing public fall. You have this incredible dissonance. Cash is obsessed with religion. He's a man of the Bible. He's studying scripture. But his chemical reality is pure sin in his view. He genuinely believes he is damned.
There's that one story, the forest fire. I could not believe this when I read it in 1965.
Oh, the Los Padres National Forest incident.
Okay.
It is perhaps the most bizarre and telling anecdote of this entire era.
Set the scene for us.
Cash is high, driving a camper he's named Jesse James. He's out in the wilderness, the exhaust sparks or maybe the oil pan cracks, and he starts a massive forest fire.
Massive. We're talking hundreds of acres.
And it killed nearly 50 endangered condors, these majestic birds. And when the judge asked him about it in court, Cash didn't apologize. He didn't show remorse.
What did she say?
He said, "I didn't do it. My Jeep did."
My Jeep did.
It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like a joke. But the sources analyze this as a profound psychological admission.
How so?
He genuinely felt like a passenger in his own life. He believed the drugs, the machine, the fate, it was driving him. He was just along for the ride into destruction. He had no control.
That dissociation is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And it leads to the rock bottom, to Nickajack Cave.
1967. This is the nadir. This is as low as it gets. He decides he's done. He can't live with the pain, the guilt, the addiction anymore. He crawls into this massive cave system in Tennessee.
Intending to die.
Intending to never come out. He goes deep into the dark, lies down, and just waits for the water to rise or his flashlight batteries to die. He wants to die.
But he doesn't.
No. And the source material frames this in a very interesting way. He didn't have some grand vision of God. He didn't find peace. He felt a profound sense of failure because he couldn't die.
He failed at suicide.
Exactly. He staggered out hours later, dirty, broken, but inexplicably alive. And that failure meant he had to find a way to live.
And that leads us to the turning point, the second light in his life, June Carter.
You cannot tell the story of Johnny Cash without June Carter. You just can't. And we shouldn't just think of her as the love interest that minimizes her.
She was a force in her own right.
She was American royalty. The Carter family was the first family of country music. She was strong, she was funny, she was deeply faithful.
And she knew the darkness too, right, from being in the industry.
She knew the industry and she knew hardship. But her role in Cash's life was pivotal. She was the anchor. While everyone else saw the legend or the addict, June saw the boy who lost his brother.
She saw JR.
She saw JR. She didn't judge him. She loved him through the worst of it.
The sources describe a physical struggle. June literally wrestling pills out of his hands, flushing them down the toilet.
Waking him up for shows. Getting him on stage when he couldn't stand. She fought for him when he wouldn't fight for himself. She became the living manifestation of the redemption he sang about in those old hymns.
She helped him choose survival.
She did. She and her family moved in with him. They surrounded him. And with June by his side, we get the next phase of the legend. The prisons. Folsom and San Quentin.
These weren't just gigs.
No, this wasn't a PR stunt. This was solidarity. When Cash walked into Folsom Prison, he wasn't looking down at the inmates. He was looking at himself.
He saw himself in them.
Completely. He saw men imprisoned by bad choices, men separated from society, men who'd made terrible mistakes. He identified with them completely. He felt he was one of them.
The reaction to the song Folsom Prison Blues on that album captures that perfectly.
Oh, it does. The line, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die."
Yeah.
When the prisoners scream and roar at that line, they aren't cheering for murder. They are roaring with recognition. It's the brutal honesty. Cash was confessing the darkness that lives inside the human heart.
He wasn't singing to them, he was singing with them.
Exactly. That's the key distinction. And that elevated him. He went from being a country singer, even a star, to being an American prophet of the marginalized. He became the voice for the people who had fallen through the cracks.
And he kept that voice right until the very end. I want to jump forward, if we can, to the Rick Rubin era, the 90s.
The resurrection.
It really was. He's an old man now. His health is failing. He's been dropped by his label. Many people have written him off. And he teams up with a hip-hop producer.
A genius move. And it was genius because Rick Rubin stripped everything away again, just like Sam Phillips did back in 1954.
Back to the basics.
Just the voice and an acoustic guitar. And Cash covered Nine Inch Nails, he covered Soundgarden, he covered Depeche Mode.
That video, I think everyone remembers where they were when they saw that video for the first time.
It's devastating. And it proved that his power wasn't genre-specific, it was soul-specific. He took Trent Reznor's modern industrial angst and infused it with that ancient Dye's Cotton Field Sorrow.
He made it his own.
He turned it into a gospel song about mortality and regret. It was his final testament.
It brings us back to the philosophy of the man in black. He explained late in his life why he wore the black.
He did. He said he wore it for the poor and the beaten down, for the hopeless, hungry side of town, and for the prisoner who has long paid for his crime.
But also for himself.
But he also admitted he wore it for the sinner, because he was one, and he never pretended not to be.
That brings us back to the outline's final lesson, that redemption isn't some flash of lightning.
No, it's a long walk. It's a daily struggle. It's walking through the darkness with a steady rhythm, that boom chicka boom, and if you're lucky, having a hand to hold.
So as we wrap this up, let's go back to that central question, the darkness and the dawn.
Johnny Cash's life teaches us that the darkness doesn't disqualify you from the light. In fact, for some artists, it might be the prerequisite for the kind of art that really, truly matters.
He earned it.
He paid the price. He earned the right to sing those songs.
And that's why we still listen, because when we hear that voice, we don't just hear a singer, we hear a witness. We know he's been there. He's the man who fell, got scorched, but rose again.
His legacy is his defiant imperfection. He showed us that the struggle is the story. The flaws are part of the beauty.
I think that's something we can all take with us, whether you're fighting your own battles or just, trying to get through the week. Sometimes you just have to keep that rhythm going.
Keep walking the line.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the source code of Johnny Cash. It's been a journey.
Indeed. A powerful one.
And here is a final thought for you to carry with you. We often try to hide our scars, don't we? We try to present a polished, perfect version of ourselves to the world. But Johnny Cash built a legend by doing the exact opposite. He took his deepest wound, the loss of his brother, and all the darkness that came from it, and he turned his scars into scripture. So what imperfection are you hiding that might actually be your greatest strength? Something to think about. We'll see you on the next deep dive.